They thought she was nothing, just a fragile human servant meant to scrub the floors of the Silver Creek pack house. They laughed when she entered the Alpha trial, a brutal gauntlet designed to kill anyone without a wolf's spirit. They called her weak. They called her prey. But they made one fatal mistake. They didn't know whose blood ran through her veins. They didn't know that spilling it wouldn't just kill her. It would wake up the monster they had chained in the dark for 20 years. This is the story of Brianna Hart and the day the Alpha knelt. The grand ballroom of the Sterling estate smelled of pine-expensive cologne and the metallic tang of raw aggression. It was the eve of the Alpha trial, the decennial event where the Silver Creek pack determined the hierarchy for the next generation. Brianna Hart adjusted the scratchy collar of her maid's uniform, keeping her eyes fixed on the polished mahogany floor. She wasn't a guest. She was part of the furniture, an orphan taken in by the pack, not out of kindness, but out of a need for free labor. Anna had spent 19 years learning that silence was her only shield. "Refill, now!" The voice was low and dripping with disdain. Anna froze, then turned to the table where Cairo Sterling sat. Cairo was the Alpha's son, the golden boy. He had broad shoulders, hair the color of spun gold, and eyes that shifted between blue and a predatory amber. Beside him sat Laura Vance, a high-ranking she-wolf who wore cruelty like a designer handbag. Anna stepped forward, the crystal pitcher in her hand, trembling slightly. "Yes, Alpha Heir." As she poured the wine, Cairo stretched his leg out under the table. It was a subtle movement, calculated and precise. He hooked his foot around Anna's ankle. She went down hard. The pitcher shattered. Red wine exploded across the pristine white tablecloth and splashed onto Laura's silk gown. The ballroom went silent. The music-alive quartet playing in the corner stopped abruptly. "You clumsy little rat!" Laura shrieked, jumping up and slapping Anna across the face before she could even scramble to her knees. The sound of the slap echoed off the vaulted ceiling. Anna held her cheek, her eyes watering. I'm sorry. I tripped." "You didn't trip," Cairo said, leaning back in his chair, a smirk playing on his lips. "You fell because you are weak. You are uncoordinated. You are human." Laughter rippled through the room. It was a wolfish sound, low guttural chuffs of amusement. Alpha Tobias Cairo's father and the current leader of Silver Creek watched from the dais with bored indifference. He didn't care about a servant girl. He cared about strength. "Clean it up," Cairo commanded, tossing a napkin onto the floor, right into the puddle of wine and glass. "On your knees." Anna bit the inside of her lip until she tasted iron. She reached for the napkin, the glass shards slicing into her fingertips. She didn't wince. She had learned long ago that showing pain only excited them. "Actually," Cairo said, his voice raising so the whole room could hear, "why is she cleaning? Tomorrow is the trial, and the laws of Silver Creek are clear, are they not, Father? Any resident of the territory, wolf or otherwise, may enter to prove their worth." The room went deadly quiet again. Alpha Tobias frowned. "Cairo, don't be absurd. She would be dead in the first hour." "Exactly." Cairo smiled, his eyes cold and dead. "Let's make it interesting. The girl enters the trial. If she survives the first round, I'll grant her freedom from her debt. She can leave Silver Creek forever." Anna's head snapped up. Freedom. It was the one thing she dreamed of. But the trial. It was a hunt. Wolves tore each other apart for dominance. A human had never entered, let alone survived. "And if she refuses?" Laura sneered. "Then she is banished to the Outlands," Cairo said casually. "Tonight." The Outlands were a death sentence, rogue wolves and freezing temperatures. Cairo was giving her a choice between probable death and certain death. Anna looked at Cairo. She saw the malice in his eyes. He wanted to watch her run. He wanted to hunt her. She stood up, ignoring the blood dripping from her fingertips where the glass had cut her. She smoothed her apron. "I accept," Anna said. Her voice was quiet, but it didn't shake. Cairo laughed a barking sound. "Did you hear that the mouse wants to play with the wolves?" He stood up and walked over to her, leaning down to whisper in her ear. "Run fast, Brianna, because when the sun goes down tomorrow, I'm not going to be the alpha heir. I'm going to be the predator, and you look delicious." The guests roared with laughter as Anna turned and walked out of the ballroom, her blood dripping onto the expensive floor, leaving a trail that no one noticed. No one except for a figure watching from the shadowed balcony above. A man in heavy iron chains flanked by 4 armed guards. He sniffed the air, his grey eyes flashing silver as the scent of her blood drifted up to him. It smelled like ozone, like a storm before it breaks. It smelled like home. The trial grounds were located in the deep woods, a fenced-off sector of the territory that hadn't been touched by civilization in 50 years. It was a labyrinth of ruins, dense thickets, and limestone caves. At dawn, 25 participants stood at the iron gates. 24 of them were shifted or partially shifted werewolves' muscles, rippling claws, extended eyes glowing with adrenaline. And then there was Anna. She wore heavy combat boots. She had stolen from the lost and found thick cargo pants and a canvas jacket taped at the wrists and ankles. She carried no weapon. Humans weren't allowed them. "Rules are simple," the game master announced. 3 days. Reach the summit. Flag at the top of Howler's Peak. The bottom 5 competitors each day are culled. Fighting is permitted. Killing is discouraged, but accidents happen. Cairo stood at the front of the pack, stripped to the waist. He winked at Anna. A cannon fired. The ground shook as 24 wolves took off in a blur of fur and violence. Anna didn't run forward. She ran sideways, diving immediately into a thicket of brambles that the large wolves couldn't push through without slowing down. She knew she couldn't outrun them. She had to outthink them. For 6 hours, Anna moved like a ghost. She used the mud to mask her scent, a trick she had read about in the library while dusting the old chronicles. She climbed trees rather than running on paths. She watched from above as a young wolf named Jackson was ambushed by Laura and left with a broken leg. By late afternoon, the sky turned a bruised purple. The temperature dropped. This was when the wolves became most dangerous. Anna needed shelter. She spotted the ruins of an old stone sanctuary, the remnants of the original pack house before the Sterlings took over. It was forbidden ground usually, but in the trial, everything was fair game. She scrambled over a crumbling wall and dropped into a courtyard. It was quiet here. Too quiet. Well, well. Anna spun around. It was Laura. She hadn't shifted fully, but her nails were long curved talons, and her teeth were sharpened points. "I tracked your heartbeat," Laura said, stalking forward. "It's beating like a little bird. Thump, thump, thump." Anna backed up until her back hit a rusted iron grate. "Laura, you don't have to do this. You're already going to pass the first round." "It's not about passing," Laura hissed. "It's about showing Cairo that I can clean up his messes." Laura lunged. Anna dropped to the ground, and Laura's claws raked the stone wall where Anna's head had been a second before. Anna scrambled backward, her hand hitting a lever on the floor. The rusted grate beneath her gave way. With a scream, Anna fell into the darkness below. She landed hard on damp straw, the air knocked out of her lungs. She lay there for a moment, gasping, waiting for Laura to jump down after her. But Laura didn't follow. Instead, Laura peered through the grate far above and laughed. "Enjoy the basement, rat. That's where they keep the rejects." Anna sat up, her eyes adjusting to the gloom. She was in a dungeon. The air was cold and smelled of mold and something else. Something ancient. "You are bleeding." The voice came from the darkest corner of the cell. It was deep rough, like rocks grinding together. Anna scrambled to her feet, pressing her back against the damp stone. "Who's there?" A chain rattled. Heavy. Industrial. A figure stepped into the sliver of moonlight, filtering from a high crack in the wall. He was massive. Even in human form, he dwarfed Cairo. He wore tattered rags that barely covered a body mapped in scars. Thick iron shackles bound his wrists and ankles, the metal etched with glowing runes magic to suppress a wolf. His hair was long, matted, and black as pitch. But his eyes were a piercing, luminous violet. "I asked you a question," the man said, taking a step forward. The chains pulled taut, stopping him 5 feet from her. "You are bleeding. Why?" Anna looked down at her arm. She had scraped it on the grate during the fall. A thin line of blood was trickling down to her wrist. I fell," Anna stammered. "Who are you? Why are you chained?" The man tilted his head. He inhaled deeply, his nostrils flaring. A shudder went through his massive frame. "They call me Subject 7, or the Beast. It depends on which Sterling is holding the whip." Anna realized where she was. This wasn't just a dungeon. This was the Sterling secret containment unit. Rumors existed of wolves who were too strong, too crazy, or too dangerous to be let loose. The Alpha kept them here as weapons of last resort. "I'm Anna," she whispered. "Anna?" He tested the name. "You smell impossible." "I'm just human," she said defensively. The man laughed, a dry, humorless sound. "There is nothing just about your blood, little human. It sings." Suddenly the door to the dungeon, a heavy steel blast door on the far side, creaked open. 2 guards walked in, carrying electric prods. They didn't see Anna in the shadows. They were focused on the chained man. "Time for your feeding, mongrel," one guard sneered, tossing a hunk of raw grey meat onto the floor. "Eat up. Cairo wants you energized. He might want to use you for target practice in the final round." The chained man didn't look at the meat. He looked at the guard. "I smell a fresh scent on you. You've been near the Alpha air." "Shut up," the guard snapped, jamming the prod into the man's ribs. Zap! The man didn't flinch. He didn't scream. He just stared, his violet eyes glowing brighter. "Hey," the second guard said, shining his flashlight around. The beam hit Anna. "What the hell? It's the human girl." "Laura said she dropped her down here." The first guard laughed. "Well, this makes things easier. Cairo said if we found her, we could have a little fun before we finish the job." They turned toward Anna, ignoring the chained man. Anna backed up, her heart hammering against her ribs. She looked around for a weapon, a rock, a bone, anything. "Don't touch her," the chained man said. His voice was no longer rough, it was commanding. It vibrated in Anna's chest. "Shut it." 7. The guard raised the prod again. The man's eyes locked onto Anna's. "Come here," he commanded her. "What?" Anna breathed. "If you want to live, come to me, within the circle of my chains." The guards were closing in, leering. Anna made a split-second decision. She ran toward the monster. She ducked under his massive arm, just as the guard swung the prod. The electric baton hit the chained man's shoulder instead of Anna. The man roared, but he didn't pull away. He wrapped his shackled arms around Anna, pulling her flush against his chest. He was burning hot like a furnace. "You made a mistake," the man growled at the guards over Anna's head. "You're chained, freak." "You can't do anything," the guard yelled. The man looked down at Anna. "Your hand. Give me your hand." "Why? Trust me." Anna hesitated, then placed her bleeding hand into his scarred palm. Her blood smeared against his skin. The reaction was instantaneous. A shock wave of energy blasted through the dungeon, blowing the flashlights out of the guards' hands. The runes on the man's chains flared blinding white, then turned a deep blood red. Crack! The iron cuff on his right wrist shattered. The guards froze. That's impossible. Those are witch-forged." The man, Silvio Blackthorne, though Anna didn't know his name yet, stepped forward, the broken chain dangling from his wrist like a weapon. He grinned, and his teeth were lengthening into fangs. "My turn," he whispered. The silence that followed the shattering of the chain was heavier than the iron itself. The two guards stared at Silvio Blackthorne, their faces draining of color. They knew the legends. They knew why he was kept in the deepest hole of the territory, bound by runes that cost a fortune to maintain. Silvio didn't rush. He didn't need to. He rotated his shoulder, a sickening pop echoing in the small chamber as years of stiffness were forced away by the rush of adrenaline. You can't be loose," the first guard stammered, backing up until he hit the cold stone wall. "The Alpha said the magic was unbreakable." Silvio looked at his remaining shackles, the heavy iron cuffs on his ankles and his left wrist. The runes were flickering, dying out, neutralized by the smear of Anna's blood on his skin. "Your Alpha lied," Silvio said softly. The second guard screamed a high-pitched sound of pure terror and raised his electric prod. He lunged, aiming for Silvio's chest. Silvio moved with a speed that defied physics. He didn't shift. He didn't need the fur to be a monster. He caught the guard's wrist mid-swing. There was a wet crunch. The guard dropped the weapon, howling as his bones turned to powder. With a casual flick of his arm, Silvio threw the man across the room. The guard hit the far wall with enough force to crack the stonework, sliding down into a heap unconscious. The remaining guard dropped his weapon and scrambled for the door. "Help breach the beast is—" Silvio picked up a loose stone from the floor, a chunk of the ceiling that had fallen years ago, and hurled it. It struck the back of the guard's knee. The man went down hard. Before he could crawl away, Silvio was over him. Anna pressed herself against the rusty grate, her hands covering her mouth. She had seen violence in the pack-house beatings, disciplinary actions, but she had never seen war. This was war. It was efficient, brutal, and devoid of hesitation. Silvio grabbed the guard by the collar of his tactical vest and lifted him off the ground with one hand. "Where is the key to the ankle cuffs?" Silvio asked. His voice was calm, which made it terrifying. I don't have it. Cairo has the master key. Please don't kill me." Silvio stared at the man for a heartbeat, his violet eyes swirling. "Tell Cairo I'm coming." He knocked the guard unconscious with a precise tap to the temple, then dropped him. The room fell silent again. Silvio stood amidst the carnage, his chest heaving. He slowly turned to look at Anna. Anna flinched. She couldn't help it. He was a giant covered in grime and fresh blood, radiating an aura of power that made the air taste like metal. "Do not fear me," Silvio rumbled. He took a step toward her, but stopped when he saw her tremble. He looked down at his own hands, realizing how he must look. "I will not hurt you, little mouse. You freed me." "I didn't mean to," Anna whispered, her voice shaking. I was scared." "Your blood," Silvio said, looking at her hand. "It is not human. Not entirely." "It is," she insisted, clutching her wounded hand to her chest. "I'm a nobody, an orphan." "No." Silvio shook his head. "Wolves are bound by magic. Runes, moon cycles, pack bonds. But there is a bloodline. The Breakers. Humans born with the ability to sever magical ties. They were hunted to extinction centuries ago. Or so we thought." He knelt down, bringing himself to her eye level. Even kneeling, he was massive. "Let me see your hand. Please." Anna hesitated. Every instinct told her to run, but the door was blocked by bodies, and the only way out was up into the woods where Cairo was hunting. This monster was the only thing standing between her and death. She extended her hand. Silvio took it gently. His touch was surprisingly cool. He didn't use a bandage. Instead, he brought her hand to his lips and licked the wound. Anna gasped, trying to pull away, but his grip was iron. "Still," he commanded. As his tongue soothed the cut, a strange warmth spread up her arm. The pain vanished. When he pulled back, the wound was sealed, leaving only a faint pink scar. Werewolf saliva had healing properties, but usually only for their own kind. "Why did that work?" Anna asked, wide-eyed. "Because you are mine," Silvio said, the words slipping out before he could stop them. He looked shocked by his own admission. He stood up abruptly, turning away. "We need to move. The scent of blood will draw the others. Can you climb?" Anna looked up at the broken grate she had fallen through. It was 20 feet up. "No," Silvio nodded. He walked over to the unconscious guards and ripped the tactical belts off them. He buckled them together, creating a makeshift harness. "Get on my back," he said. "What? We are climbing out, unless you want to stay here and wait for the alpha air." Anna didn't need to be told twice. She climbed onto the stone block and wrapped her arms around Silvio's neck, her legs hooking around his waist. He smelled of rain and musk, a deep, earthy scent that was strangely comforting beneath the grime. Silvio gripped the rough stones of the wall. His fingers dug into the rock like it was clay. With a grunt of effort, he began to haul them up, carrying her weight as if she were a feather. As they ascended into the darkening sky, Anna looked down at the dungeon. She had walked in a victim. She was leaving with the most dangerous creature in the territory. "Silvio," she whispered into his ear. "Yes." "Who are you really?" "They called you Subject 7. Silvio paused, one hand gripping the edge of the pit. He looked up at the moon, which was just beginning to rise, full and yellow. "Before the Sterlings came, this land had a name. It was the Obsidian Territory, and I was its king." He pulled them over the edge and into the cold night air of the forest. The game had changed. The hunter had become the hunted. The forest was alive with the sounds of the hunt. Distant howls echoed off the valley walls, signaling that the first elimination round was ending. The cannon fired twice. 2 participants had already failed, likely mauled or captured. Anna and Silvio moved through the undergrowth. Silvio was still hampered by the heavy iron chains dangling from his ankles, but he moved with a predator's grace, silencing the metal by wrapping the loose links in strips of cloth torn from the guards' uniforms. "We need a blacksmith," Silvio muttered, looking at the cuffs. "Or more of your blood. But I will not take it unless necessary." "I have plenty," Anna said, trying to be brave. "No," Silvio growled low. "You are small, fragile. I will not drain you to buy my comfort." They reached a ridge overlooking the river. Anna recognized the spot. It was near the old logging camp. "We need shelter," Anna said, pointing to a cluster of dense pines. "The temperature is dropping. If we don't find heat, I'll freeze." Silvio looked at her. She was shivering, her lips turning a pale blue. He cursed under his breath. He was running hot, his wolf metabolism burning fiercely. But she was just a human girl in a thin jacket. "There is a cave near the waterfall," Silvio said. "I remember it from before." "That was 10 years ago, Silvio. The terrain shifts. The stone does not shift." They made their way down the embankment. Silvio led the way, breaking branches and clearing a path. Suddenly, he froze. He threw his arm out, stopping Anna in her tracks. "Someone is here," he whispered. Anna held her breath. A twig snapped to their left. Out of the shadows stepped a young man. He was slim with sandy hair and a beta's build, strong but not bulky. He held a wooden spear he had fashioned himself. "Anna," the boy whispered. Anna let out a breath. "Bastian." It was Bastian, one of the gardeners from the estate. He had always been kind to her, sneaking her extra apples from the orchard. He was participating in the trial, hoping to elevate his family's status from servant to ranked member. "Oh God, you're alive," Bastian said, rushing forward. He stopped dead when he saw the towering figure of Silvio behind her. Bastian's eyes widened, his nose twitching. "Who? What is that?" "It's okay," Anna said quickly, stepping between them. "He's with me. He's helping me." "Helping you?" Bastian looked at the broken chains, the scarring, the violet eyes. He took a step back. "Anna, that's the prisoner. The one they talk about in the barracks. The one who ate his own pack." "Lies," Silvio said. His voice was calm, but the vibration of it rattled the leaves on the trees. "Cairo's father slaughtered my pack. I was the only one left alive to torture." Bastian looked between them, conflict warring in his eyes. "Anna, you can't be with him. If Cairo finds out..." "Cairo threw me into a pit to die, Bastian." Anna snapped, her anger finally bubbling over. "He dropped me into the dark. Silvio saved me." Bastian looked down at his shoes. I heard. Everyone heard. Laura was bragging about it at the checkpoint." "Help us," Anna pleaded. "We just need to get through the night. Do you have any food?" "A fire starter." Bastian hesitated, then sighed. He reached into his pack and pulled out a protein bar and a lighter. "I have this. I set up a small camp near the riverbank. It's camouflaged." Anna smiled, relief washing over her. "Thank you, Bastian." They followed the young gardener to a small hollow beneath the roots of a massive oak tree. It was well hidden. Bastian got a small, smokeless fire going. Silvio didn't sit. He stood at the edge of the hollow, his back to the fire, watching the darkness. He didn't trust the boy. The boy smelled of fear, yes, but also of ambition. Anna sat by the fire, eating the protein bar. She broke it in half and walked over to Silvio. "Eat," she said. Silvio looked down at the pathetic piece of food. "I need meat. Red meat." "It's chocolate peanut butter," she said with a small smile. "It's better than nothing." Silvio took it, his fingers brushing hers. The spark was there again, a magnetic pull that made his inner wolf howl with possession. He ate the bar in one bite. "Why are you helping him?" Bastian asked from the fire. "Even if he was a king, he's a rogue now. A monster." Anna turned to look at Bastian. "Because he looked at me and saw a person." "Cairo looked at me and saw a target. It's that simple." Bastian nodded slowly. I guess you're right. I'm going to check the perimeter. Make sure no one followed us." "Be careful," Anna said. Bastian slipped out into the dark. Silvio turned immediately to Anna. "We have to leave. Now." "Why he's helping us?" "He is a beta," Silvio hissed. "Betas are hardwired to serve the alpha. He is terrified, Anna, and fear makes people do terrible things." "He's my friend Silvio. Not everyone is a monster." "In this world," Silvio grabbed her arm, pulling her up, "everyone is a monster until proven otherwise. I smell deceit on him. It smells like sour milk." Before Anna could argue, a sound cut through the night air. A whistle. Sharp, piercing, and distinct. It was a sterling hunting whistle. Anna's blood went cold. She looked toward where Bastian had exited. "He called them," Silvio said, his face hardening into a mask of rage. "Run!" "But run!" Silvio roared, shoving her toward the river. Suddenly, floodlights blinded them. Beams of intense artificial light cut through the trees, pinning them in the hollow. "Well, well," Cairo's voice floated from the darkness. "Bastian, you beautiful little traitor. You just earned yourself a spot in the inner circle." Bastian stepped into the light, head bowed. "I'm sorry, Anna," he mumbled. I can't live as a gardener forever. I need the rank." "You sold me out for a promotion." Anna screamed, tears pricking her eyes. "He sold you for his life." Cairo laughed, stepping into the clearing. He was fully geared up now, holding a high-powered crossbow, loaded with silver-tipped bolts. Behind him stood Laura and 6 elite pack enforcers. Cairo looked at Silvio, his eyes narrowing. "And you, Daddy's little secret. You broke the chains. Impressive." Silvio stepped in front of Anna, shielding her body with his own. He was unarmed, shackled at the ankles, and outnumbered, but he smiled, and it was the smile of a nightmare. "Hello, pup," Silvio growled. "Did your father tell you what happened to the last alpha who tried to hunt me?" Cairo raised the crossbow. "No. But I'm sure you can tell him yourself in hell." "Take the girl," Cairo ordered the enforcers. "Kill the beast." 6 wolves shifted simultaneously. The sound of bones cracking and fur sprouting filled the clearing. 6 massive beasts, grey and black, circled them. Silvio looked back at Anna over his shoulder. His violet eyes were soft for just a second. "Stay behind me. Close your eyes." "Silvio, no. Close them." Anna squeezed her eyes shut. She heard Cairo loose the bolt. She heard the wet thud of it hitting flesh. Silvio didn't make a sound. Instead, the ground beneath them erupted. A roar louder than any animal shook the forest floor. It wasn't a wolf's roar. It was the sound of raw, ancient power breaking free. Anna opened her eyes to see Silvio ripping the silver bolt out of his chest. He wasn't shifting into a wolf. He was growing larger, his skin turning into a hard, obsidian-like armor, his fingers elongating into razor-sharp claws that looked like black glass. The beast wasn't just a werewolf. "Run while you can, little princes!" Silvio's voice boomed, distorted and demonic. "The king is hungry." He lunged at the first wolf, and the slaughter began. The clearing by the river had become a graveyard of ambition. Cairo Sterling, the alpha heir. The golden boy scrambled backward through the mud, his expensive combat boots slipping on wet leaves. His crossbow lay forgotten in the dirt. His breath came in ragged, terrified gasps. Before him, the massacre was absolute. The 6 elite enforcers' wolves trained to kill rogue bears and suppress rebellions were broken. They lay scattered across the riverbank, thrown like rag dolls against the trees, and standing amidst the ruin was the creature that was and wasn't Silvio. The obsidian armor that covered his skin pulsed with a deep violet light. He was 7 feet tall in this form, a nightmare of jagged edges and raw power. He didn't look like a wolf. He looked like a gargoyle torn from the architecture of hell. Cairo hit a tree trunk. Nowhere left to run. The creature turned its head. Its eyes were no longer just violet. They were burning white voids. It took a step toward Cairo, the ground trembling under its weight. "Please," Cairo whimpered, raising his hands. I can give you anything. Money. Territory. I can give you the girl." The creature stopped. At the mention of the girl, a ripple went through the obsidian armor. The jagged spikes along its shoulders retracted slightly. From the shadows of the tree line, Anna watched, frozen. She should have been running. Every instinct screamed at her to flee from this monster. But she couldn't. She saw the way the creature's chest heaved. She saw the tremor in its clawed hands. He wasn't hunting. He was suffering. "Silvio!" Anna screamed, stepping out from behind the oak tree. The creature whipped its head around. It roared a sound that shattered the remaining windows of the old logging cabin nearby. It raised a claw toward her, as if to strike. "No." Cairo seized the distraction. He didn't attack. He was too much of a coward. He scrambled to his feet, shifted into his golden wolf form in midair, and bolted into the darkness, tail tucked between his legs, abandoning his squad and his dignity. Anna ignored Cairo. She walked toward the monster. "Silvio," she said, her voice steady despite the terror gripping her heart. "It's me. Look at me." The monster growled, swiping at the air. The obsidian armor seemed to be vibrating, cracking. Smoke rose from his skin. "Get back!" The voice was Silvio's, but it sounded like it was coming from the bottom of a well. "Cannot." Control. Yes, you can," Anna said. She stepped into the clearing, the mud soaking her boots. She walked right up to the towering beast. She reached out and placed her hand on the center of his chest, right over where his heart was beating like a sledgehammer. The obsidian was scalding hot. It burned her palm, but she didn't pull away. "You are the king," she whispered, repeating the words he had said earlier. "You are not a beast. Come back to me." The effect was immediate. The violet light in his veins surged toward her hand, drawn to her touch like a moth to a flame. The armor began to shatter, flaking off like ash dissolving into the wind. The monstrous height receded. The claws retracted. Seconds later, Silvio Blackthorn collapsed into the mud, back in his human form. He was naked, his body steaming, every muscle defined, and twitching with exhaustion. The wound from the silver bolt in his chest was open again, bleeding sluggishly. Anna fell to her knees beside him. She stripped off her canvas jacket and draped it over him. "Silvio, stay with me." His eyes fluttered open. The violet was dim now, pale as a dying ember. You didn't run?" "I'm done running," Anna said, tearing a strip from her shirt to press against his chest wound. "Cairo is gone, but he'll be back, and he'll bring his father." Silvio coughed, spitting blood. "Tobias, he will bring the battalion. We cannot fight an army, Anna, not like this." "Then we heal you," she said. She looked at his chest. The silver was poison to him. His healing factor was failing because he had used too much energy in the transformation. "Anna," Silvio gripped her wrist. His grip was weak. "You asked me about your blood, why it breaks magic. Tell me later." "No. You must know. If I die, you need to know who you are." He took a ragged breath. "The Sterlings didn't just take this land. They stole it from the Hart family, a lineage of druid wolves, keepers of the balance." Anna froze. "Hart? That's a common name. The orphanage gave it to me." "The orphanage is funded by the Sterlings," Silvio rasped. "They killed your parents, Anna. They slaughtered the Harts to seize the territory. But they couldn't kill you. Why?" Her voice trembled. "Because the land requires a living heir to maintain the barrier against the Outlands. If the Hart bloodline ends, the magic protecting Silver Creek fails and the rogues invade. Tobias Sterling kept you alive, close and ignorant. He made the Queen scrub his floors so he could play king." Tears streamed down Anna's face. The abuse, the mockery, the years of being treated like trash. It wasn't just cruelty. It was a strategy. They had enslaved her in her own home. "They mocked me," she whispered, a cold fury rising in her chest. "They laughed at me. And now," Silvio sat up, groaning as the wound stretched, "we are going to make them kneel. But I need strength." He looked at her neck. The pulse beat visibly there. Anna understood. He needed blood. Not just to heal the wound, but to recharge the ancient magic that allowed him to turn into the obsidian beast. She didn't hesitate. She moved her hair aside, exposing her throat. "Take it," she said. "Anna, no. It is intimate. It creates a bond that cannot be broken. If I drink from you and you are willing, it is the right of the mate." "I don't care about rights," Anna said, looking into his fading violet eyes. "I care about survival, and I care about you." Silvio stared at her, stunned by her bravery. Slowly, reverently, he leaned forward. He didn't bite like an animal. He extended his fangs, slowly pressing his lips against her skin first. "I swear to you," he whispered against her throat, "I will never let them touch you again." He sank his teeth in. It didn't hurt. It felt like a jolt of electricity, a warm, golden light flooding through her veins and into his. She gasped, arching into him, her hands tangling in his dark, matted hair. She felt his strength returning, surging like a tidal wave. The wound on his chest closed instantly. His skin regained its color. The muscles in his back coiled with renewed power. But more than that, she felt him. She felt his rage, his loneliness, and his overwhelming adoration for her. And he felt her fear, her hope, and her iron will. He pulled back, licking the drop of blood from the puncture marks which vanished under his tongue. His eyes were glowing, a brilliant neon violet. "The bond is sealed." Silvio growled, his voice vibrating with possession. He stood up, pulling her to her feet effortlessly. "Let Alpha Tobias come. I am ready." The summit of Howler's Peak was a jagged spear of rock piercing the clouds. It was the highest point in the territory, the place where the Alpha planted the pack flag to signify his reign. It was noon on the third day. The deadline. Anna and Silvio walked up the winding mountain path. They didn't hide in the bushes. They didn't crawl. They walked side by side, hand in hand. Anna still wore her torn maid's uniform, but she carried herself differently now. Her head was high. Her eyes scanned the horizon. She wasn't a servant anymore. She was a heart. She was the land. Silvio wore the tactical pants stripped from another guard they had encountered and dismantled an hour ago. His chest was bare, displaying the scars of his imprisonment, but he wore them like medals now. "They are waiting," Silvio said, as the peak came into view. "I know," Anna said. At the summit, a flat plateau of grey stone the Silver Creek pack had assembled. Not just the participants of the trial, but the entire hierarchy. Alpha Tobias sat on a portable throne brought up by helicopter. He looked bored, sipping whiskey. Cairo stood by his side, looking pale and nervous, his arm in a sling. Laura was there too, looking battered but smug, surrounded by 30 armed guards and the remaining trial competitors who had sworn fealty to the Sterlings to survive. When Silvio and Anna stepped onto the plateau, the chatter stopped. "Finally," Tobias sighed, setting down his glass. "I was beginning to think you died of exposure. Would have been boring." "Father," Cairo whispered. "That's him. That's the beast." Tobias stood up. He was a large man, greying but powerful with the arrogance of someone who hadn't been challenged in 20 years. "Subject 7, Tobias sneered. "And the little maid, you made quite a mess of my woods." "I am Silvio Blackthorn." Silvio's voice carried over the wind deep and resonant. "Last Alpha of the Obsidian Pack. And I have come to evict you." The guards laughed. Tobias chuckled, shaking his head. "Evict me, you are one wolf, Silvio, broken and chained, and she is a human scrub girl." "She is Brianna Hart," Silvio roared, the sound making the guards flinch. "True heir to this territory, and you are trespassing." Tobias's smile vanished. He looked at Anna, really looked at her for the first time. He saw the resemblance to the parents he had murdered, the jawline, the defiance. "So," Tobias said coldly, "the secret is out. Pity. I liked having a heart clean my toilets. It felt poetic." He snapped his fingers. "Kill them. Slowly. I want to mount the beast's head on my wall." The 30 guards raised their rifles. The 20 wolves shifted. It was an execution squad. Anna squeezed Silvio's hand. "Ready?" Silvio looked down at her. "Always." "Fire," Tobias commanded. But before the triggers could be pulled, Anna stepped forward. She didn't use magic. She used the law. "I invoke the blood challenge," she screamed. The air froze. The guards hesitated. The wolves stopped mid-snarl. The blood challenge was the oldest law of the shapeshifters. It was a sacred right that superseded any Alpha's command. If a challenger claimed the rights to the territory by bloodline, the current Alpha had to face them in single combat. To refuse was to forfeit the pack's magic. Tobias's face turned purple. "You cannot invoke that. You are human. I am a heart." Anna yelled, her voice breaking but loud. "The magic recognizes me. If you deny the challenge, the land will reject you. Your wolves will lose their shift. Your walls will crumble. Try me, Tobias. Order them to shoot and watch your empire turn to dust." It was a bluff, mostly. Anna didn't know if the magic still worked that way. But she knew wolves. They were superstitious. They feared the old ways. The guards lowered their weapons, looking at their alpha uncertainly. They wouldn't risk losing their wolves for him. Tobias saw his control slipping. He snarled, ripping off his jacket. "Fine. You want to die by my hand, so be it." He looked at Silvio. "I assume you are her champion, since she can't fight. I am her mate," Silvio said, stepping forward, his eyes beginning to glow that terrifying violet. "And I am going to enjoy this." "No," Cairo shouted, stepping forward. "Father, let me. I need to redeem myself. Let me kill him." Tobias looked at his son with disgust. "You couldn't even kill him with a squad boy. Stand down." "I have the serum." Cairo pulled a syringe from his pocket. It was glowing neon green. "Wolfsbane concentrate mixed with adrenaline. It will make me strong enough." Before Tobias could stop him, Cairo jammed the needle into his own neck. Cairo screamed. His body convulsed. He shifted, but it was wrong. His bones snapped loudly, his golden fur tearing as muscles expanded unnaturally. He grew to a massive size, foaming at the mouth, his eyes rolling back into his head. He had become a rabid, chemically enhanced monster. "Kill!" Cairo shrieked, no longer human, no longer wolf. Just a weapon. He launched himself at Silvio. Silvio didn't shift. He didn't have time. He caught Cairo's massive jaws with his bare hands, sliding backward across the stone sparks flying from his boots. "Silvio!" Anna cried out. Cairo was stronger than before. The drugs made him impervious to pain. He raked his claws across Silvio's chest, reopening the wounds. Silvio went down Cairo on top of him, snapping at his throat. The pack watched in silence. This was the brutality of their world. Anna looked around. She saw the flagpole, the steel rod bearing the sterling banner. She didn't have claws. She didn't have fangs. But she had rage. She ran toward the flag. "Hey!" Laura shouted, lunging to stop her. Anna didn't stop. She grabbed the halyard rope and swung, using her momentum to kick Laura squarely in the chest with her heavy combat boot. Laura, surprised by the ferocity, tumbled back. Anna ripped the sterling flag down. She broke the wooden toggle. She looked at the pole. It was a spear. "Silvio, move." Silvio pinned under the drooling beast that was Cairo heard her. He didn't question. He headbutted Cairo with enough force to stun the wolf for a microsecond, then rolled to the side. Anna threw the flagpole. It wasn't a perfect throw. It was clumsy. But it was driven by 20 years of hate. The steel rod struck Cairo in the shoulder, pinning him to the ground. The wolf howled, thrashing, unable to reach the shaft to pull it out. Silvio was up in an instant. He didn't look at Cairo. He looked at Tobias. "Your son is defeated," Silvio said, breath heaving, "by a human girl." Tobias was trembling. His dynasty was crumbling before his eyes. "Kill them all," he screamed, losing his mind. "I don't care about the laws. Kill them." He grabbed a rifle from the nearest guard and aimed it at Anna. Bang! The shot rang out across the canyon. Anna squeezed her eyes shut. But she didn't fall. She opened her eyes. Silvio stood in front of her. He hadn't been hit. Across the plateau, Alpha Tobias stood with a look of shock on his face. A small red dot appeared in the center of his forehead. He collapsed backward, dead, before he hit the ground. Behind him stood Bastian. The gardener held a smoking pistol. His hands were shaking violently. Bastian stuttered, tears running down his face. I couldn't let him do it. I'm sorry, Anna. I'm so sorry. The silence on the mountain was absolute. The Alpha was dead. The air were pinned and rabid. Silvio walked to the center of the plateau. He stood over Tobias's body. He looked at the pack, the guards, the competitors, the servants. His eyes flared violet, and for a moment the shadow of the obsidian beast flickered behind him, towering and terrible. Kneel, Silvio commanded. It wasn't a request. It was the voice of a king. One by one the wolves dropped to their knees. The guards lowered their weapons. Even Laura, clutching her bruised chest, bowed her head. Silvio turned to Anna. He held out his hand, his blood-stained hand. Long live the Queen, he said loud enough for the wind to carry it to the valley below. Anna took his hand. She looked out over the territory. Her territory. The sun was setting, painting the sky in hues of blood and gold. They had won, or so they thought. Because as the pack knelt, Anna felt a strange vibration in the ground, a hum. It was coming from deep within the mountain. Silvio felt it too. He stiffened, pulling her close. Do you feel that? Anna whispered. The seal, Silvio said, his face paling. Tobias's death. The balance shifted. The magic protecting the borders just dropped. From the distant tree line of the outlands, a howl rose up. Then another. Then 1,000. The rogue army had been waiting for the barrier to fall. The trial was over. The war had just begun. The howl from the tree line wasn't just a sound. It was a death knell, with Alpha. Tobias dead, the ancient magical barrier protecting Silver Creek had shattered, and the outland horde, hundreds of starving rogue wolves, was breaching the perimeter. Panic erupted on the plateau. The pack, leaderless and terrified, began to scatter. Stand your ground! Silvio's roar cut through the chaos. He stood covered in blood, his violet eyes blazing. If you run, you die in Force's front line. Betas flank them. The wolves obeyed, not out of loyalty, but out of survival. Silvio turned to Anna, gripping her shoulders. The barrier didn't just fall, it reset. It's waiting for a power source. Anna's eyes darted to the stone altar, where Tobias's throne had sat. Beneath it lay the ancient seal of the Hart family. I have to reseal it. You need time, Silvio said, looking at the wave of rogues crashing up the narrow mountain path. I will buy it for you. Silvio, there are hundreds. It's suicide. I am the Obsidian King. He grinned a dark, reckless expression. I don't need to win. I just need to bleed enough to slow them down. He kissed her hard, a promise of return, and sprinted toward the ledge. Shifting in midair, the obsidian beast crashed into the enemy line like a meteor, his black armor absorbing the impact of 20 rogue wolves. Anna wasted no time. Bastian, help me. Together, the human girl and the gardener shoved the heavy oak throne aside, revealing the intricate carving of a wolf and hand intertwined. Watch out! Bastian screamed. A rogue wolf had bypassed the blockade, scrambling over the ridge. Bastian swung a broken flagpole, but the beast knocked him aside, snapping its jaws inches from his throat. Suddenly, a silver-tipped dagger buried itself in the rogue's neck. The beast collapsed. Standing over it was Laura Vance, battered and limping. "Clean the floor, servant girl." Laura spat, though her eyes held desperate respect. "Save us." Anna knelt over the seal. She didn't hesitate. She sliced her palm open with the dagger, pressing her bleeding hand onto the cold stone. "By the blood of the heart," she screamed, her voice cracking, "I claim this land. Wake up." The mountain answered. A blinding pulse of white light shot from the seal, expanding outward in a shock wave of pure rejection. It passed harmlessly through the pack, but hit the rogues with the force of a hurricane. The invaders were blasted off the cliffs, their bodies thrown back into the outlands. With a deafening thrum, the golden dome of the barrier shimmered back into existence, sealing the territory once more. Silence fell over the peak. Anna stumbled to the cliff edge. "Silvio!" A black-clawed hand punched through the mound of unconscious bodies on the trail below. Silvio hauled himself out, shifting back to human form. He was covered in bite marks, exhausted but alive. He looked up at her and smirked. "Nice light show, little mouse." An hour later, under the rising moon, the hierarchy of Silver Creek was forever changed. Laura Vance approached Anna, holding a velvet cushion with the Alpha's signet ring. The pack watched in hushed silence. Laura knelt stiffly, but willingly. "The laws are clear," Laura said. "The land chose you. The blood chose you." Anna looked at the heavy gold ring, then at Silvio, who stood at her side as her protector. "I cannot lead a pack of wolves alone," Anna announced. She took the ring and slid it onto her thumb, the magic resizing it to fit perfectly. Then she turned to Silvio. "I rule the land," she whispered, placing her hand on his cheek. "But you rule the wolves. You are my sword." Silvio dropped to one knee, bowing his head against her hand. "And you are my queen, now and always." One by one, the rest of the pack followed. Bastian, the guards, the competitors, they all knelt in the dirt before the girl they had once mocked. Anna looked out over the valley. Her valley. The maid was gone. The queen had risen. Brianna Hart spent 19 years as a ghost in her own home, treated as prey by those who thought power came only from claws and fangs. But in the end, it wasn't the strength of the wolf that saved Silver Creek. It was the resilience of a human girl and the loyalty of the monster who loved her. Anna rewrote the rules, turning a slaughterhouse back into a sanctuary. She proved that true authority isn't taken by force. It is earned by sacrifice. The mocking is over. Long live the Queen. And that is the story of Brianna and Silvio. What a wild ride. I honestly didn't think Bastian was going to redeem himself there at the end. What did you guys think? Do you trust him, or should Silvio keep him on a short leash? If you enjoyed this story, please smash that like button. It really helps the channel grow and lets me know you want more werewolf romance dramas like this one. Comment below. If you were in the Alpha trial, would you try to hide like Anna or fight like Silvio? I want to hear your strategy. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you never miss the next episode. I've got a story coming up next week about a billionaire vampire and his bodyguard that you do not want to miss. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.